What's up everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fi School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So far, we've been seeing a lot of development surrounding the video game Hogwarts Legacy, but the one thing that we haven't necessarily gotten is a release date. One of the reasons I've kept quiet is because I've been studying and watching the way the developers are, in a sense, marketing their game and the way they're exposing some of their aspects of the game to their communities, and it's a little interesting. Now, I think in my mind that their game is probably ready to go. I think there are a lot of developments surrounding their game. There are rumors regarding the possible release date of Hogwarts Legacy. I mean, no doubt about that. But one thing is actually quite interesting, and that is the plethora of other games that are set to come out in the fall of this year. So one thing about the fall of this year is it's going to be a very tight competitive window for the AAA releases. If you were paying attention, last year was not necessarily the hottest in terms of releases, but this year seems to have been the year where almost everyone who's been sitting on their game or at least working on it is having the opportunity to release it. But it's probably going to be coming down to the window where they're probably going to want to release it at the most opportune time, which is the holiday. So if you didn't bring out your game in Q1, I mean, in video game world, Q2 almost doesn't exist. If you guys know the joke, you're probably going to be looking at Q4. But here's the thing about Q4. Q4 is tightly packed. There is the Call of Duty game that's in November, which would more than likely still break record sales. That's usually how Call of Duty goes. It kind of eats into your market if you're a game developer. So one smart thing that you can do as a game developer is probably avoid a Call of Duty release window. Corey Barlog of Sony Santa Monica Studios has actually done this before. In fact, in an interview, he mentioned how he was able to request that his release date be in a window where it was not going to conflict with the Call of Duty game. And I think that kind of played a role as to how much more success the game was able to garner. And in my opinion, I think Hogwarts Legacy might be in this particular same place. Now, hear me out. If you think about it, Warner Brothers has a series of games to release. Hogwarts Legacy has been promised to still be on track for this year, and Gotham Knights as well. These are the two Warner Brothers games that are on the table yet to still be released in 2022. The only thing is, right now, Gotham Knights has gotten its release date all the way in September, and we knew that somewhere around maybe May that we were going to be getting it at that point. The funny thing, though, is Hogwarts Legacy has not responded in that same window. And at first, we kind of reiterated as maybe they were waiting, or maybe Warner Brothers Montreal is probably getting the dibs to go first and do their marketing and do their exposure. And then the Hogwarts Legacy team over at Avalanche is probably going to be coming and following through. But I don't necessarily think that that is the case at this point, because we're pretty much approaching the end of June and we're not necessarily seeing much. And so it probably leads me to the place where there's probably considerations right now as to the potential release of the God of War Ragnarok game that will definitely be a huge competitive game to Hogwarts Legacy. It will compete with Hogwarts Legacy. It will compete with Gotham Knights for the wallet of gamers across the world. There's no doubt about that. As much as the Hogwarts Legacy fan base is huge, the God of War fan base is also huge. And I can almost say that there's probably going to be some intersection between both. And not everyone is probably going to have the money to want to spend at the same time on both titles. And it's going to be one of those itchy things. People are going to want to play them both if they come out in the same, say, 2-week, 3-week, or even 1-month window. And this is definitely something that I'm certain a lot of gamers are considering right now. And if anyone is paying attention, we're probably going to see this consideration affect the release date for Hogwarts Legacy. Nonetheless, it could also be that the developers might decide to go ahead and just throw it out there. There's nothing against that notion. I mean, the games have kind of sat in development for the longest time that they can, and perhaps it might be also a waiting game right now. Gotham Knight seems to have its own niche. It's a superhero niche. Usually fans of those kinds of genres of games will go for it first or maybe come back for it. Its competition is not necessarily huge. You have Marvel's Midnight Suns and then perhaps maybe Spider-Man on PC. I've made videos that those two would compete with Gotham Knights, but some people have said they don't think it will. I think it will. Watch and see. PC gamers have been waiting for Spider-Man, and many of them probably will play the Spider-Man game and wait out the Gotham Knights game, because in their minds it's probably going to be a cost analysis or a cost preference thing. But that aside, if you factor in the release windows and potential market impact, you will see that there is a very huge and a narrow margin between how many players would want to ignore maybe say the God of War game compared to the Hogwarts Legacy game. In all reality, the God of War game has more popularity because it has a prequel that's the basis for this other game that people are expecting. There's first of all a huge story cliffhanger when you finish the first game. There are story elements and locations that you cannot necessarily access from the first game. And when you kind of place all of this together, there is a lot of anxiety and a lot of excitement for the God of War Ragnarok game. And I think this is probably where we're going to stand for the longest time. We're going to be at an impasse trying to figure out when these games are coming out. It might be a thing where maybe, and this is just a hypothesis, Warner Brothers might be waiting for Sony Santa Monica to go ahead and announce their game, and Sony Santa Monica might also be waiting for Warner Brothers to go ahead and announce their game so that they're able to position it very well. In my opinion, though, I think maybe the Marvel Midnight Suns teams probably did this for their own game. If you notice, it's releasing a week or so before Gotham Knights. I think about 2 weeks. It's coming out on October the 9th, yet Gotham Knights is coming out on the 25th. So they're pretty much trying to get the game out there because their game is a very niche game. You know, it's super niche, and I don't necessarily know what its audience reception is going to look like compared to Gotham Knights. And I know the XCOM fans, I've been reading comments and looking around, and many of them are excited to play that game because of its strategy nature and the way it's structured. But many Gotham Knights fans have already made their minds up that they want to play a third-person superhero combat-based game, and so it's not going to appeal to them. But these different factors are some things that we need to consider when we're looking at, say, potential reveal or release dates of these particular video games in the industry. But anyways, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Talk to me about what you think all these games are going to have their release date announced. Thank you very much for watching the video. Hopefully we'll talk soon. Peace out.